I totally agree with that. And you know, before I read 3 of his books while I was in prison, and I had a total different view of him from reading those books to what he's been doing as a president. And I'm gonna tell you that he didn't write those books. Absolutely.
No, he didn't write those books. He couldn't write a paragraph. The man, and he couldn't spell 4 of the words. No, of course he didn't write those books. He's a case of arrested development. There you have 3 ego states: child, parent, and adult. He has never developed an adult ego state. He spends all his time in either his child or his parent ego state. And if you want to know what he's really like, you need to read the book When at Times the Mob is Swayed. When at Times the Mob, M-O-B, is Swayed, by Bert Newborn. You've got to get it and read it, and then you'll understand what this fool is about. It's dangerous, it's ugly, and he doesn't, right now, 6 of his people who are going to go to Oklahoma with him have been found that they have the virus. They did the test and they didn't pass the test. So those are staying back at the White House. But he's going to go and not wear a mask because he thinks that would make him look weak. So he's going to take all his people to Oklahoma, to Tulsa, Oklahoma. Do you remember what happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma in 1921? And if you do, remembering that, how can you allow this fool to go to Tulsa for any reason whatsoever?
Well, you know, he was going to do it yesterday, which would have been the anniversary of Juneteenth, which would have totally been disrespectful, I believe. Somehow they got him to reverse his thinking and not do it yesterday and doing it today, which, like you said, to me was totally disrespectful.
But he said Juneteenth wouldn't have been a big deal if he hadn't made it so.
People were allowing him to parade himself like he is.
Well, we don't have to allow that. We can get rid of him at least in November. We can vote him out of office. If enough people go to the polls, a whole lot of people are going to say, I don't like him and I don't like any of the rest of these. I'm just not going to vote. Or they're going to vote for one of those others that are on the thing. And no, don't do that. Don't allow yourself to be tricked into voting for anybody else, because a vote for anybody else is a vote for Donald Trump.
I agree. And we're hoping that blacks come out. We know that right now, 17 million blacks haven't signed up to vote for anybody. So blacks need to come out in droves this time to ensure that that this guy doesn't win, because I totally agree. You know, I think it was Bolton said that in his book that he told the Chinese to lock up all of the Muslims strictly because of their religion, that he agreed with the concentration camps.
Yeah, of course he did. What do you think those little brown-skinned boys and girls on the southern border of the United States are in, except cages? You don't call them concentration camps, you call them cages. And they're there so that we don't have so many brown people coming into this country, because Mr. Trump says those brown-skinned people reproduce too rapidly. So we don't want to have any more of those than we absolutely have to have. I think people don't realize how sick this man is.
Yeah, well, we know. I know that he could have did a lot more for the coronavirus than he did. You know, but he was so stupid, running around talking about that it wasn't gonna get here, and I think he was saying that it was only 15 people infected, and that the numbers are going down, and that the heat was gonna kill the virus, and instead of taking the steps that we really needed to get us through this pandemic. But it looks like he's totally fine with us losing 250,000 or 200,000 people, whichever number is definitely too many people for us to be losing in this pandemic. But I guess since he's seeing that it's mostly black and brown people, that he's perfectly fine with that too.
Sure, let the Navajo Nation die. We don't care. They aren't any good. They aren't of any use to us. The Navajo Nation is dying out in the desert while we sit here and talk about this ugliness. And while he gives great big income tax deals to the wealthy in this country. Lower the income tax for the people who are trillionaires and raise it for the rest of us to make up the difference. Make sense to you? Doesn't make sense to me.
None, not to me either. I'm totally backing you. Do you think we need more protests, or we just got to get out here and vote to change the mindset of society? Or we're getting him out of office, will that be enough?
I think we need to keep on protesting in a peaceful manner, as they have been, until November 3rd. And I think that people will then say to themselves, if this many people are this angry, we could have a real uprising if we don't get this man out of office. We have to get this person out of office. And you have to realize that a whole lot of white folks, now we aren't white, a whole lot of very, very light-skinned people, a whole lot of pale faces do not believe that it's as bad for people of color in this country as we say it is, because it doesn't happen to them. And as long as it isn't happening to them, it really isn't happening. When finally they saw what happens to black males at the hands of some policemen in the last 3 weeks, all of a sudden people are waking up and acting as if, oh my God, this is a terrible thing to do. Well, guess what? These aren't the first 2 or 3 people who have been treated like that by our policemen. You have to realize that what we're going to have to do in this country is re-educate the educators and then re-educate the people they have educated. Because what we are offering in this country, and have for a very long time, is not education, it's indoctrination. If you're going to graduate from first grade, you have to believe that Columbus discovered America, which is a lie. You can't discover a place where people are already living. They discovered it before you got there. It's time for us to start teaching the truth in schools and really educate people instead of indoctrinating them.
I agree with that there. And I said the same thing for years when I found out that there were people already here. So how could Christopher Columbus discover America? Huh? How could he discover America when it was already people here? And then I heard that it was an African people who actually showed him how to get over here from Africa. When he was in Africa, it was people already coming from Africa to here for years. So there's no way that he could have discovered.
But what we didn't learn in school is that every one of us came from Africa. The first modern human beings that evolved on this earth evolved 300 to 500,000 years ago in sub-Saharan Africa. And within a few thousand years, many thousands of years after those first, and they were black, because their bodies were exposed to a lot of sunlight, so their bodies produced a lot of melanin to protect their cells from the damaging rays of the sun. As those brilliant, absolutely brilliant, adventurous, curious, creative people got tired of living in that area and started to move away, they moved farther and farther from the equator. You know all this. And as they moved farther and farther from the equator, their bodies were exposed to less and less sunlight, so their skin, their hair, and their eyes got lighter. Their features got lighter, but their brains didn't get smaller. And those brilliant people were what we call the First Nations people. What we call Indians came from Africa. What we call Italians came from Africa. What we call Chinese came from Africa. And what we call Irishmen came from Africa. We are all members of the same race. There's only one race of people on the face of the earth, and that's the human race. And we will not get over the idea of racism until we get over the idea of different races. You and I are members of the same race. You're one of my 30th to 50th cousins. Whether you like it or not, that's the way it is.
Thank you.